Good morning, and welcome to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I am located at 1563 Main Street in Peckville, and I am here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. to provide landowners valuable information that you need regarding the natural gas development here in Pennsylvania. And of course, if you're looking for landowner information, this is the show for you. At my office, my focus is solely on landowner and only landowner representation, not landowners and companies that I'm seeing more and more of these other firms are doing. And it's, to me, I find it troubling, but I allow everybody to make their own decisions. But my focus is solely on landowner representation, 7 days a week. If I'm not on vacation, I'm fired up today. I'm looking forward to do this show. I'm excited about the topic today. I'm also, though, I'm going to be on vacation this week, so I'm really fired up about that, too. These guys are really driving me, so I can use the break, so I'm very much looking forward to that. So anyway, at my office, my focus, again, landowner representation, gas leases, pipeline agreements, royalty and royalty deduction issues. If you are getting royalties, deductions are being taken, you can send me your information. I will do a free, confidential, no obligation evaluation of your lease and royalty payments and let you know whether I feel that the deductions themselves are being improperly taken in violation of your lease. Okay, so that's another big part of what I do. I'm doing more and more estate planning, surface agreements, damage receipt and releases. Having a lot of problems with these recently where companies are approaching landowners for well sites, perhaps other facilities that are putting on people's property, and they want you to sign a damage receipt and release. Please, whether it's me or somebody else, please make sure you're taking this documentation to an attorney. Got a big battle this past week with a company. Their damage receipt and release was quite frankly ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And there's no way in the world that anybody from the company side would ever sign such a document. But yet they present it to the landowner. And when I got into the battle with these guys, what do they tell me? Well, this is what we've used in the last 3 or 4 months and nobody's had a problem. Well, that's fine because maybe nobody understood what they were reading. Maybe nobody took it to somebody who understood what the document said and what rights they were giving up and how they were exposing themselves to potential future liability and enormous problems if, God forbid, there was an accident or a problem on the well site. So the idea of we're using this agreement is the most preposterous argument out there, and it kills me, and I've talked about this before, and as you can see, I'm already fired up today. I'm going to be fired up, I think, all show, because I really got me wound up this week on a few issues. So anyway, this damage receipt and release, and I talked about these some in the last couple weeks, but I just want to say, over this last week, I had another conference call with some guys, a higher-up guy from one of the companies, saying, hey, we've used this before and people haven't had a problem. I said, well, that's fine, but I've never approved this before. And once again, if you get 100 people to sign a really bad agreement, does that mean that the next person should sign it too? So please, when you're given any document, whether it's me or somebody else, please take it and have it signed or have it reviewed by an attorney and somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody that's seen these documentation before, because I'm seeing such bad agreements out there. And they say, well, people have been signing this for months. My thought is, oh, God forbid, I hope to heavens they don't have any problems, because if they do, this document can come out and take a major bite out of them. And when I say that, as a landowner, if you're going to have well site on your property or you're going to be getting royalties, there's this whole talk and law and, general out there of deep pockets. Who do lawyers target? They target defendants, people to sue that have deep pockets. So if you're a landowner getting royalties, you may qualify in the deep pocket category, which isn't bad. It's nice to have deep pockets, meaning that you're making money. But on the flip side, it also means that you're now more of a target. You're a more desirable target. If there's going to be a lawsuit, who are they going to sue? They're going to sue everybody, but they're really going to focus on who has the deep pockets. Where can I recover money? You are now a target. You need to protect yourself. And the the fact that the last 20 people or 100 people didn't protect themselves doesn't mean that you shouldn't protect yourself. So if you're given any document, and the land guy says to you, oh, everybody signs this, that's garbage. First off, you don't know if it's true. Second off, if they are signing it, who says that they should be signing it? Who says that they should? So, in these cases where you're asked to release something, you're asked to release, hey, here's a payment, here's a check for $5,000 for crop damage. Well, that document should say, we're giving you $5,000, and you know what? You're releasing us for crop damage, not for fines and penalties or anything else that may occur in their operations. No, you're releasing them for damage to your crops, damage to your timber, whatever the case may be. Nothing more, nothing less, but nothing more. So you gotta look at these. I'm telling you, people, please look at these. It's driving me crazy. It's driving me crazy to see what these companies are presenting to people and what they're signing in occasions. And obviously not everyone's sending their paperwork to me, but a lot of people do. And when I see this, I say, wait a second, let's step back. So, from now on, that document, at least for every one of my clients, is going to change. And it's already started to change, and it's going to change some more. So it's changing to be better for the landowner, which means that these landowners that have assistance, if something is going to happen negative in the future, if there's going to be an accident, there's going to be a result that they may have some liability, we're going to make sure that they're covered. The problem is, if you're just signing that form, there's no guarantee you're covered. What does the company do? They want the best agreement for them. They want to cover themselves in every possible way. Of course, that's what they want to do. You as a landowner need to protect yourself. This isn't a big commercial for me. You can call me anytime. That's fine. Send me your stuff. I'll look at it. I'll let you know, hey, I think this is something you may need some help with. Whether it's me or somebody else, please don't just blindly sign these documents, because if it's not a problem, hey, that's great. But if a problem arises, you're going to be really upset. You're going to be in a bad situation. So you need to make sure, if you can avoid that circumstance in the future, you need to explore and you need to look at avoiding those potential problems. Nobody should sign these documents. They are very important contracts. I'm telling you, you shouldn't sign them. Again, don't just necessarily call me. I'd love for you to call me. I'd love to help you out. However, call somebody. Please call somebody, because these documents that people are being provided as the development process continues, many of them are very, very disturbing. And it's driving me crazy. And I know that they're out there, and I watch what they do. And what they'll do, even with my own clients who I've represented for a long time, the landmen will go out there and they'll buddy up to them and they'll say, well, this is what we do here. This is what we do here. This is customary in practice. First off, is it customary in practice? And if it is, well, is it a good custom and practice for you as the landowner? And you got to look at that. And things need to change. And if you don't do anything, they're going to keep stamping all over people. Think about it. We have the leases. How many people out there are upset about that lease process and what occurred? And they feel, and I see all the time where people sign leases where at the time much better terms were available. They signed leases at the time where if they would have contacted me or somebody that knew or was familiar with the market, could have obtained hundreds of thousands of more dollars, higher royalty percentages. I see it quite regularly. So we know that occurs. Everybody, there's so many people, almost everybody knows somebody that signed and their neighbors signed for so much higher. Well, what does that tell us? Look, we know the company wants to get the best deal for them. The company wants to get the best release for them. They want the best pipeline right-of-way agreement. They want the best roadway agreement. That's fine. That's the process. That's capitalism. That's the way our country operates. But you, as the landowner, need to be aware of that and protect yourselves. The companies, I don't care how many times they say it, are not your friend. And how many times I hear that saying, oh, we want to be a partner, we want to be partner. Well, yeah, they want to be partners when they got a problem. But you don't know how many times I hear when clients come to me and say, hey, we have a problem. Here's the situation. And it's a legitimate problem or a legitimate concern. Notify the company. The company says, well, hey, they shouldn't have signed a lease then. Well, they wouldn't say that to the landowner necessarily, and they don't say that whenever they don't have the power. The flip side is, well, company, you shouldn't have signed this lease if you wanted to put a roadway across the property that you don't have a right to do. So it's not being difficult. It's not being unreasonable. The company wants to hold you to your contract. You should hold the company to theirs at any time possible. In other words, if you're supposed to get $10,000 for timber, you should get $10,000 and sign essentially a receipt, which is a small release saying, I received $10,000 for timber and I'm satisfied. I'm not going to make any more claims for timber. But you shouldn't release the company from penalties, from tort actions, which is a legal action. You shouldn't release them from strict liability. You should release them from timber damages. It's elementary. And no company guy, not a guy or girl from any company that knows anything, would sign the very same release that they're presenting to you. So please make sure you're getting those checked out. I am Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. I'm here every Sunday from 8 to 9. Like I said, I'm fired up today. You can go back. You can listen to other shows where I'm not so fired up, but I am fired up today too because I am going on vacation. It's been a crazy week. All kinds of things been going on. People were trying to get things done before I leave, and a lot of exciting things happened this week. Some good, some not so good. But this example, the damage release, it's just really driven me crazy. But what I'm going to talk a lot about today, and I've talked about this before, and it needs to be talked about more because it's blowing up across the state of Pennsylvania. I mean that. It is blowing up. We had probably close to 10 calls this week, around 10 calls. We had about 10 calls this week from landowners who have been contacted to sell their oil and gas rights. About 10 people just this week, and over 10 the last couple weeks. People are writing me, people calling, hey, I got this offer. Please, 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 again, do not sign these offers blankly. Just don't sign these offers. I'm going to talk about this process, what goes on behind the scenes. First thing that you do when you get an offer, my advice, unless there's extenuating circumstances, you rip it up or throw it away. Or you want to have fun, create a file that says gas rights offers to sell gas rights. Make a little file and stick those sheets in there and watch how those offers come in, how they tend to go up, how they come from different companies. Google the companies, Google the people that are sending you these offers. Check it out. You're going to find this very interesting situation. And at the end of the day, you want to look back in another 10, 20 years or 5 even, maybe 15, you're going to look and find out, follow this money and see how these people make out. They're going to be in a wonderful, wonderful situation. Was it worth it for you to go ahead and put them in a situation to sell your rights? So everybody's different. As I always say, the show isn't about specific advice for any specific individual, but there certainly are generalities that we can discuss that are very important. So I am getting these calls. Doug, what should I do? I got this offer. I'm looking to sell some gas rights. I need some money. It's taken too long. I'm not getting the royalties I thought I was going to get. What should I do? My number one statement is be patient. Be patient. That's what you should do. There are rarely, in my opinion, examples and cases where you're going to be better off to sell all or a portion of your gas rights. Very rarely. It can occur, but very, very rarely. So if you're in that position where maybe it is the case where you're in that rare position where it's to your advantage, what's the first thing you should do? Not sign anything and bring it to me or somebody like me to discuss it with you. And my first step is going to be to explore every reason why you should do this and to go through all the reasons why you should not do this, and then make an informed decision. If you're making these decisions based on a letter that you receive or a conversation that you receive or that you have with one of these individuals, think about that type of decision. That is a very, very poor and uninformed decision when you're talking to the other side about an asset like this. Okay, I'm over again, as I always am. We're at the end of the first segment. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark, here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m., and we'll be back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. And a reminder, you can go back. I have all the radio shows. We have them archived and available at pagasleaseattorney.com and pipelineattorney.com. That's pagasleaseattorney.com and pipelineattorney.com. Check out the websites. Go back. We have the radio shows archived. How many? Well, at this point, we're over 150 hours of radio shows. So not always this fired up, but again, I am fired up this week. And also, you can contact me directly at any time at 570-307-0702. That's 570-307-0702. You know, I'm talking today about the mineral rights and gas rights offers. And you can go, again, to the website at pagasleaseattorney.com, and a lot of information available there. You know, check out the website, just explore it, not just the radio shows, a lot of other information there. And if you're interested in pipelines, you're faced with a pipeline agreement, again, you need representation. You really, really do. Whether it's myself or somebody else, you need to understand your options. You need to make sure that you're maximizing the agreements. And, more than 9 out of 10 times, I think in every single pipeline agreement that I've ever worked on, the terms of the agreement have significantly improved, and often the compensation, depending on the type of the agreement, the compensation improves. And in the worst case scenario with any of these agreements, if you're not able to do something with it, at least you understand what you have and why you're not able to do something with the agreement to change it to make it better. But it is so rare of a case where you can't improve any agreement that you're offered. And sometimes that approval with very little effort, that improving that agreement with very little effort can go up hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's not an exaggeration. Sometimes in a phone call, because the companies don't tell you what you don't know. You need to make sure that you're understanding what's being presented and you're maximizing that agreement. Again, I am Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. We're here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And if you need representation, you can call me anytime, 570-307-0702. But if it's not me, make sure it's somebody. Don't just sign these company agreements. Leases were only the beginning. I have probably between 10 and 20 active lease files right now. I used to have 50 or more at a time. Now I have probably more active pipeline files than anything. Done pipeline agreements now. I think we're closing in on 50 different companies across the state of Pennsylvania. So it gives you an idea what's going on. We're transitioning, and the transition has already started to occur to these development processes. Now you have to protect yourself in that part of it. You may be a person that you sign a lease, you get royalties, that's great. But the second a company comes to you with additional agreements, you need to know what you're signing. You need to know what you're signing, why you're signing it, and you need to hear that not from the company landman. You need to hear that from somebody who's helping you on your side. And I believe that because I see it every single day. Okay, I want to get back to the offers to sell gas rights. Again, I don't know how else to say this. As a general proposition, I super rarely, ever have a case where I think that it's in my client's best interest or the landowner's best interest to sell any or all of their gas rights. It is an unbelievably rare situation, in my opinion, that's to the benefit of the landowner. Very, very rare. You need to understand why. If you were thinking about selling your gas rights, my first thought is stop thinking it. But the second part, though, is you need to understand what are the potential negatives. Why may you not want to do this. And there's usually a laundry list of reasons. These guys on the other side looking to buy the gas rights. We're talking about, something hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've seen millions of dollars offered. Well, how do you think they got into a position to offer all of this money? Well, because they're not really stupid. They're not foolish. They understand how to turn money into more money. They understand that some people may be in a difficult position or some people may not be informed, and how can we take advantage of that situation? And that's occurring all across the state of Pennsylvania. Please do not just look at the short end money. Now, maybe it is right for you. This isn't a show for specific advice for any individual, but I'm telling you, I've seen this 50, 100, who knows how many times where I've been contacted over the years, and I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's been any cases where I've actually agreed that I thought it was in a landowner's best interest to sell their rights. I don't like it at all. I can understand certain circumstances, but the bottom line is I really, really don't like it. And I know people are doing it, and if you decide that you're going to do it, first off, rarely is it ever the right decision. Rarely, in my opinion, is that ever the right decision. But if you decide, if you want to do this, the first step should be, okay, I think I want to do this. Let me learn some more. Then you contact somebody like me who can do some investigation that can help you out. And again, this isn't a commercial for me, but the problem is you need to look at this. Okay, why is the company offering this money? Where do I stand in the production process? Am I unitized? Are royalties coming soon? Are wells drilled that are going to produce in my property? Am I on a drill schedule for wells to be drilled in the future? Where do I sit in this process? Is there already a well drilled? It might even be producing. I just haven't seen my royalty check yet. Now, you can't always get clear, concise, easy answers to those questions, but a lot of times you can get valuable information to help guide you making this very, very important decision. You have to investigate where you're at. If you're offered more money, and this is just elementary, if you're offered $2,000 per acre to buy your gas rights, and the other guy in the next county is offered $8,000 per acre to sell their gas rights, well, what does that tell you? What should that tell you? The guy who's offered $8,000, he's not any shrewder or a better negotiator than the guy who's offered $2,000. No, he's sitting in an area where his gas rights are worth more. And the company says, well, I'll offer him this. They'll jump at that. And these gas rights may be worth $15,000, $20,000 per acre. If you're offered $8,000 per acre, that's a darn good sign that you're in a known area that they fully expect to produce. They're not throwing out $8,000 per acre offers all across the state. They're targeting areas that they know are going to produce, that are going to produce soon. They're looking at where am I going to get a quick return from my investment. They're going to pressure the heck out of you as a landowner when they know that operations and royalties are about to start, because they don't want you to see that royalty check. Because once you see that check, you're going to say, whoa, I'm not going to sign this agreement. This is a bad deal. Now, again, I can't say that's in every case, but that's in many, many, many cases. That pressure to try to hurry up to get you to sign, it's all calculated. Same with every other agreement out there. Rarely is there a legitimate need for you to sign an agreement in a very short period of time. Rarely does that occur. However, in almost every example, every time a landowner comes to me, well, they're really in a hurry to get this done. They tell me they're really in a hurry to get this done. Well, yeah, they're always really in a hurry. I have one client, they were in such a hurry in 2009 to get this pipeline, actually it was 2010, to get this pipeline agreement done. Here we are, summer 2014, that pipeline has never even started. And there's all kinds of stories like that out there. I've seen people sign pipeline agreements in 2009 that are just still out there that nothing's even started. So understand, Always, yeah, it's to their benefit. Oh, we're in a hurry. We're in a hurry. We want to get producing. The landowner's eyes light up, understandably. Hey, I want to get to the royalties. Who doesn't? That's fine. That's natural. So let me go ahead and sign. The companies know that. They know that they can tell you, we want to get to production. We want to get you royalties. We can get royalties if you get this signed. Well, what are you going to do? A lot of people are just going to sign. But if you delve in a little deeper, you'll see that that's not necessarily the case. If there's such a hurry, an example like a pipeline right-of-way agreement, why do they want a 5-year option to give them time to start? Why do they want a 3-year option if it's such a hurry? Very, very, very rarely are there true needs and necessity to move forward in such a short fashion. I am Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. I'm here with you every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. I want to get back, talking about these gas rights and selling gas rights. I can't say it enough. Please, if you're thinking about selling the gas rights, you should be first thinking about all the reasons why not to sell them. The only reason to sell is that number that's written in that letter that you receive, that number of how much money they're going to give you. That's the only reason to sell. Then, you take a sheet of paper. You write on the left side, why do I want to sell the gas rights? What are you going to write there? You're going to write a number. That's what you're going to write. You're going to write a number, and that's the number they're offering you. I don't know what else you're going to write there. Because if you write anything else, I think you're just fooling yourself. Remember, you're looking at potentially selling your gas rights, not your property, your gas rights. So you're not saying, well, I'm going to sell my house and my property. I'm going to move to Florida and retire. You're keeping the surface of the property. You're just selling the gas rights. So your advantage is money immediately. What's your subsequent advantage? That's all you get, just the one-time payment. Now you own the surface, you don't own the gas, and you devalued your property if you're going to sell it to somebody else. So you go to sell your property. You leave it to the children. They go to sell it. They want to be there. They want to live there. Well, they don't own the gas rights. So now they start losing control. First, they have no royalties, obviously, but they also can lose control over what happens on the surface of the property. So you're getting one benefit, and there's no doubt that's a benefit. If they pay you, you're getting the money. You get money. Then you go, all right, so I draw the line. I can't think of anything else to add on the left side of the paper. Let's add on the right side then. And let me tell you, I don't have enough time in the show to go through all the reasons. But you need a scroll to go for all the reasons on the right side of the paper. Why not to do it? You're giving up those rights. You're giving up any ability to future royalty. You're giving up control because the subsurface estate, that gas estate, is a dominant estate over the surface. So you're giving up that control. You're devaluing the property. In the future, if you were going to buy a property, do you want to buy a house and property? Do you want to buy that when the gas rights belong to some gas right company in Oklahoma or in Texas or some hedge fund? Is that the property you want to buy as a potential purchaser of a property? And again, you've just sold out all future royalties forever. So as your neighbors who didn't sell are collecting their royalty checks in months we're assuming this is an area where there's going to be production. So they're collecting their monthly royalty checks and you're sitting there and you're not, those checks are going out to some, hedge funds, some guys in Manhattan. They're going out to guys in Texas and Oklahoma, and you're sitting there going out and getting junk mail like you do in your mailbox. So you're giving up all of this potential for a short-term gain. So do you really want to be in that position? There are very rare times where maybe you do, but as a general principle, it's not where you want to be. Then, if you overcome this hurdle, which I think is an enormous hurdle, if you overcome this hurdle and you say, you know what, I want to explore this further. First, that should be the first step. Then you have to look at the offer and you have to look at the documents, because there's a whole other set of pitfalls and hurdles in front of you. So if you make a decision to decide to sell, which should really be a difficult decision and most people should absolutely not make it, then you have to look at the legal documents, because there's all kinds of pitfalls. And do you think these companies who send you these unsolicited letters are writing agreements that favor you? Or do you think they're writing agreements that are going to give them every piece of flexibility that they can have in order to back out and make sure they get the best possible deal? I'll answer that question if you need me to after this break. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark, here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. and be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. And a reminder, I am here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. to talk about landowner issues. And we've been doing the show since August of 2010. So come check out the websites at pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. Check out the websites. Got all the shows up and archived, 150 plus hours we are at this point. So whatever your interest is, there's a show there for you. But also, check out the websites and the information there. Not going to get into it too much today, but obviously I'm very, very involved with the royalties, and we have our class action case in the arbitration against Chesapeake. We're interveners in the proposed class action case of Demchak versus Chesapeake, 150 plus clients, 5,000 plus acres that we represent. I offer free, confidential, no obligation whatsoever an evaluation of your lease. Do you fall into this? There are thousands of people that do. If you don't know whether you fall into this, I believe that you owe it yourself to find out. You owe it to your family, your children, to find out what's going on. Do you fall in this? Does it apply to you? What are your options? I will let you know. Get back to you in writing. It's free. It's confidential. There's no obligation. I'm not going to harass you. Whatever decision you make is entirely up to you. But I really do want to make sure that everybody's informed and understands what's going on, and you make the right decision for yourself. If you think that this proposed settlement is a good deal, you want to be a part of it, then you should be a part of it. If you think, oh, wait, I don't like this at all, what can I do about it? Well, then we can provide you some more information and you can go from there. But you really owe it to yourself. And whether you're receiving royalties or not, this proposed settlement very well may apply to you if you're leased in whole or in part to Chesapeake. So you got to find this out. And another thing, just so you know, there's no fee for me to do this confidential, no obligation evaluation, no fee whatsoever. Okay, no tricks, no anything. Just want you to know, and then you can make a decision. Like I said, not going to keep calling you. Got a lot going on. Not going to call you at all. I'll send you a correspondence, let you know, what my take is and what my thoughts are. You can get other opinions. You could do whatever you want to do. But also, please know that if you do nothing, and you're a part of the proposed settlement, this is just something I keep getting, I know, a lot from landowners. The court imposes, if this settlement would go through, the court will impose legal fees for the lawyers who work on the settlement. So the whole class of people who are impacted, actually those royalties come out of that class's pocket, if you will. So what happens is, I know people think, well, I'm hesitant to get involved or hesitant to hire an attorney. Well, the court essentially will appoint the attorneys for you, and then legal fees are paid out of the class action settlement, which is like a big, share for all the landowners in that class. So just understand, by not getting involved or not investigating this, you're not avoiding legal fees if you're a part of this process. So that's really important, because I know a lot of people think that, and I want you to be informed. And if you want to start off by just going and checking out the websites, pagasleaseattorney.com. We have a lot of information. We break down the proposed settlement, what we're doing. But hey, look, go to the Middle District of Pennsylvania. Check out Demchak versus Chesapeake. Those are public record filings. Check it out. See if this is something that you want to be a part of. I've done many shows on this. If you haven't heard the show before, I've done many shows. You can go back to pagasleaseattorney.com and check them out there and listen and come up to speed on this. Every single person should be aware of this issue and really should be up to speed on it, because it impacts almost Well, it impacts all the people, impacts everyone with these terms in their lease, which are thousands of people. But even if you're not leased to Chesapeake, it may impact you, because however this goes, the other companies may follow suit and take a similar position moving forward, which you may not be getting deductions taken from your royalty checks now because you're not leased to Chesapeake, but in the future, your company, believe it or not, and I know there's people out there that won't believe it, but believe it or not, your company may change positions and start taking deductions, and now you're in that same type of group that these Chesapeake leaseholders or landowners, are in now. So you got to become aware of this. And again, you can get more information at pagasleaseattorney.com. You can give me a call for an evaluation, free, confidential, no obligation. Do you fall into this class? In my opinion, you can get other opinions, whatever you want to do, but I want to make sure that everybody's informed. My number is 570-307-0702. Okay, you're listening to Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. We're here every Sunday from 8 to 9, and we are breaking away from the weekly royalty section of the show and getting back to selling the gas rights. Okay, like I said before, number one, before you sell your gas rights, one of the things you may want to do is give me a call and me try to talk you out of it. That may be the first step in this process. Then the second step is, if you come to this conclusion, which I think is a very, very rarely is it an appropriate conclusion, but you come to the conclusion, I want to sell my gas rights. Then we got to start looking at these documents. So how does this process normally start? Well, it normally starts by you getting a letter from a company, unsolicited, comes in your mailbox. You may be getting a bunch of them. I talk to people, they say, oh, we get these letters all the time, we just throw them away. I had a file and I was collecting these letters, and I quit doing it because the file was getting too big, because everyone kept sending me all these letters. So I grabbed a couple of them here today for the show. So what happens? You're sitting out there, and this is old news for many, many people out there, but if you're getting only one letter or you just got your first letter, understand this isn't something special for your property. This is happening everywhere. Some clients, some landowners are getting letters from 3, 4 more companies. There are guys out there who work as brokers for these companies. And what they do is they try to get a fish on the line. You know, I say you throw out these letters, it's kind of the bait. You throw the bait out there, the landowners, unfortunately, are the fish. If you bite and you call, then this broker then will start looking at different companies that he can try to get who will buy this gas or buy these gas rights. The broker gets what? A commission. So they're out there trying to get you to sell the rights. Then they find a buyer to buy the rights who may not be the same company that sent you the letter or the name of the company that sent you a letter. Find somebody there, they broker the deal, and when these deals occur, what are they trying to do? Give you the best value for your gas rights? Obviously not. Obviously not. Everybody in this deal is looking to make money. The question is who's going to make the most money? Like I said before, these guys didn't get in a position to offer you hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for gas rights by being foolish. These are smart people. They've been doing this across the country for years and years and years. They go out there, they're sending unsolicited letters. Unsolicited letters. What does that tell you? That should just throw up flags everywhere when you're getting a letter to buy your rights for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do you think your rights might be worth more than that? Do you think maybe your rights might be worth more than what a company sends you in an unsolicited letter? Well, think about that and answer that question on your own, please. Okay. So here's an example, of a letter, and it says so to the landowner, and it says, okay, we're interested. You have oil and gas rights. I'm going to paraphrase. We would like to extend you an offer to purchase all or part of your oil and gas interest for blank per acre, so a certain amount per acre. Now I'm looking at ones from 2,000 up to over 6,000 and up to over 7,000. And again, think about the leasing process. People were offered $50, $100, $150, $500, $750, $1,500, $2,025, $5,750, and 20 and 21%. That is what people went through with leasing. Now, I'm not saying these go in that same fashion, but We're always looking at other areas and gaining education and experience. So my point is that what we see in a lot of these offers are the first offer is $2,000, the second offer is $3,000, and they go up until the point in time where people maybe start to sign. Or one company sends you an offer at $4,000 and the other one sends at $5,000, and you say, boy, that $5,000 looks great, and you jump on that. When maybe your gas rates are worth $15,000. Who knows? But that's the process. These guys are not foolish. So they send it, they say, hey, we want to buy all or part of yours. Then they put in there a total payment, total purchase price with a big number and bold letters or bold numbers to make sure that you see, wow, look at all this money. Because again, remember earlier, that's all you're going to have on the positive side of this transaction. When you do a list, good, bad, pros, cons, positives, negatives, benefits, detriments, money is going to be on the positive side. The negative side is going to be everything else. You're going to have one item on the left and a whole bunch of others on the right, and the more you think about it, the more you're going to put on the right. So, okay, goes on, though, and says these offers are based upon the company doing its due diligence determination. Okay, I ask you, what does due diligence mean? Well, due diligence can mean a lot of things. But let's go a little further. And so if you're seeing contracts and you don't know what due diligence means, then you need to make sure that you understand what that means. But let's go further, because I don't have the time to get into exactly all what due diligence can mean right now. But let's make it even simpler than that. Then you go down another sentence or two, and it says that the company reserves the right to withdraw this offer for any reason prior to final payment. For any reason prior to final payment. Well, that's a pretty nice way to get out of things, I would say. We can just get out for any reason. Any reason. Any means any. So that's how this process starts. So what does that tell you? Okay. What type of commitment are these guys making? Well, they're throwing out some bait, and they're going to see if they get a bite or a nibble or what they get. That's what they're doing there. That's the first step of the bait process. Then, as you go some further distance, if you're nibbling on it, if you're biting, or you're hitting the bait there, well, then they're going to go and they're going to do perhaps an agreement for sale or an offer to purchase, a more formal document. And this is going to set forth the terms of how this selling transaction would take place. So that's going to be the next step. And it can come in a lot of different ways. It may come in a correspondence. It may come in an official agreement for sale. But this is a more legal document. The first thing is just a letter that you're typically not going to sign. This next document is going to be, if you're getting in a letter format, a letter agreement, an offer to purchase agreement, an agreement for sale, you need to get an attorney as soon as possible. You can't just sign this document. You're giving up big time rights, and you need to understand what you're doing. We get back, I'm going to break this down because I don't want to have this last segment only a couple minutes. So you're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'm here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m., and I'm going to talk to you about these agreement for sales for purchasing gas rights right after this break. And again, if you got one in front of you now, do not sign it. Please contact an attorney. I'll be right back. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. And again, I'm here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. talking about selling oil and gas rights to these companies that are sending people letters all across the state. I could actually talk about this, I swear, for probably 5 shows. Literally 5 hours I could talk about this. And as I sit here in this last segment, I say, uh-oh, here I've done it again. And I'm running up against my time frame, and I got so much I want to cover. Let me say again, if you are presented with an offer to buy your oil and gas rights and you're seriously considering it, you need to talk to somebody to make sure that you're vetting, if you will, this process to see, do you want to do this? I've got, like I said, about 10 calls this last week, and more than 10 in the last couple weeks from landowners considering selling their gas rights. And the first thing that I'm going to do is explore trying to talk you out of it and making sure that you understand all the reasons why you may not want to do this. Okay. If you're that rare person who says, okay, I want to take this bait, I'm going to go ahead and nibble on this bait that they've thrown out there, and then you get to the point where they're going to send you some legal documents. Before you ever sign anything, you need to talk to an attorney. You need to review these documents, because not only are typically, in my opinion, these offers rarely in the landowner's best interest, rarely should you ever even consider the offers, in my opinion, but once you get to the point where they start sending you documents, think about it. They're going to send you the most favorable documents in the world to them. You don't have an attorney. You're going to go into these transactions maybe at hundreds of thousands of dollars for the lifetime. You're giving up these gas rights forever, and you're not going to have an attorney. You need to make sure that you have somebody to explain all the problems with this agreement, because there are typically many problems. You need to address them. Like I said, so, coming in that letter, you're going to always see, almost always, there's going to be documentation, and the one I'm looking at is saying that the company reserves the right to withdraw their offer to buy your gas rights at any time prior to closing or prior to final payment. So they can bail at any time. So that gives them a lot of options. That's a great deal. What do you lose in that process? A little time, perhaps? So you gotta, and as this process goes, these companies are watching what production is occurring, what's going on, where is this at? You know what? It's not happening the way we want. Let's just pull out. We can pull out at any time. The question is, what commitment have you made? And that's where you get really, really tricky. And so when you get something that you need to sign, you need to get assistance. You need to get assistance. If you're at that point, you want to call me, 570-307-0702. Be prepared. You call 570-307-0702. The first thing I'm going to do is try to talk you out of it. But if it's right for you and that's in your best interest and you want to do it and you're fully informed, okay, let's do it, but let's do it right. So you get this letter. I'm holding up here a real letter presented to one of my clients. Here's some of the terms in this, and this is for them to sign, okay? And I'm just going to highlight some of the language here. It says that the offer, it says how much per acre. Now, this one was well over $7,000 per acre. Again, what does that tell you? It tells you this is some high-quality land, and they're not just offering you $7,500 because this is low quality. I think I might have said $75,000, $7,500, $7,500 per acre. They're not offering you that because you have bad land. They're offering you that because they think they can make a lot of money even paying you that much money. So don't think that you've negotiated some deal. What you should be thinking is, why does the company want to pay me this much? Why are they offering me this much? Because maybe they know something you don't. Maybe there's multiple wells drilled already. Maybe all of your property's in a unit. Maybe the neighboring unit is super productive. They've done a lot of research. Most landowners have not done near as much or any research. And even landowners that have done research, you don't have the access in most cases, in almost all cases, to information that these guys have. I talk to these guys. They got maps. I mean, I'm talking to them on the phone. Within 5 minutes, they know so much that's taken me a lot of time to look at. They got their maps. They have all this information. It's on their computer databases. They know what's going on. They know. They're not just willy-nilly throwing out $7,500 per acre offers, or even $4,000, $3,000, whatever that number is. Okay, let's get to some terms of language in this. It says here in this is a document for the landowner to sign. This offer is further subject to the company having a reasonable time to examine title, surface accessibility. Okay, that means for the company to get on the property. What is the surface accessibility? Environmental condition, lease terms, royalty remittances, how much money you're getting, and any remaining prescription of servitude, with each being acceptable to the company before closing. So again, they're offering you this money, but they're saying, we're making this offer, but we get to decide if we want to move forward once we look at everything, and we can bail for any reason in the world. Well, how long is that going to take? What if you're a company, you're sitting there, you say, okay, let's make this offer. Let's get these guys signed up. Let's lock them in. But now, let's sit there and say, we're looking at title. We're looking at the lease terms. We're still reviewing your lease. And they're taking months in order to do this. And during this time, they're waiting to see what type of production these wells have and deciding whether this is good for them. And if you know what? If you got a poor well, maybe they're going to bail out of the deal. Or if it's a monster well, then they're going to jump all over it. They're buying themselves potentially more time to make these decisions, to take advantage of you, the landowner. Now, another important part, another big part of these things is that many people who are looking to sell their gas rights may not be in a position where they are a great financial foundation here, and so they're looking to sell their gas rights because they need money. And people who need money may have a mortgage on the property. So maybe you're a person that says, okay, well, I need money. Maybe you have credit card debt. You need some money. So you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to sell this, pay off my credit cards. I'm going to sell this, pay off some debt. Or, hey, maybe I'm going to sell these gas rights and do something fun. I have this money that I'm going to get, and I'm going to earmark it to whatever that thing is. A new car, pay off your credit cards, whatever that case may be. You're going to do that. Well, what you got to watch out for is every one of these that I've seen has language in there that you're going ahead and you're warranting here at the beginning. So you're guaranteeing, or you're saying that your title to the gas is free and clear of any mortgage. Do you have a mortgage? You're saying it's free and clear. But then if there is a mortgage, the company who's buying your gas rights reserves the right to pay off your mortgage with this money. So if you wanted to get the money to pay off your mortgage on your house and on this property, if that was your goal, well, maybe you may achieve that because the company is probably going to, if you do nothing, just pay off the mortgage. And you're not going to, if your mortgage is $100,000 and you're getting $70,000, you're not going to get anything if that money goes to the mortgage. You have to understand how that transaction is going to work. Now, maybe something can be signed off at the bank to avoid that, but that, again, that's where you're going to need some assistance. It's going to be very difficult for you to handle this on your own. You need to understand, if I do this, where is the money going? Most people who are going to sell their gas rights or considering selling their gas rights are going to have a mortgage on that property. That company buying the gas rights is going to want to pay that money to that mortgage because they're afraid that if there's a foreclosure, say they give you $80,000 and you do run off to Las Vegas or do whatever and you blow that money and then you default on a mortgage. Well, now that can be a problem for the company who's buying the gas rights because they could possibly end up being in a position where they could lose their gas rights. And they're going to do things to avoid that, but they don't want to be in that position. So they want to be in a situation where they can dedicate that money to the mortgage. You have to understand how this works. These are not just simple transactions. Look at the amount of money involved. Look what you're giving up. It's not a simple transaction. Then it goes on. Here's this letter. It goes on to say that you agree to provide the company copies of your most recent royalty statements if you're receiving money and any other records relating to your ownership of the gas rights that are satisfactory to this company before they close. So again, you're saying, okay, not only am I going to make this offer to you, but I'm going to open up everything to you. Here's all the royalty statements. Here's my property. Yeah, make sure that you're comfortable that a gas company can come onto my property and operate. Because remember, in the future, if a company comes on and drills a well on the property, puts a road on your property, all of those different things, well, the royalties that are going to result from that gas production are going to the person or entity or company that owns your gas rights, not you if you sold your gas rights. So you have to understand that. So they're saying too that, well, we're making you this offer, but we're making this offer contingent on if you're getting royalties, we want to review all your statements. We want to decide whether this is a good offer for us, whether this is a good deal for us. So even though they're offering you, we use the example of $7,500 per acre, even though they're offering you that money, you may never see it if the company thinks it's a bad deal for them because they now have the right to investigate your property, look at your royalty statements, look at what's going on in the area and change their mind. Well, when are they going to change their mind if it's not a good deal for them? When are they going to accept it if it's a good deal for them? So what have they done? They've signed you up on a conditioned offer. heavily conditioned that they can do all of this investigation and look at everything to make a decision whether they want to move forward. Every single thing is to their benefit. Everything. So you say, oh, I have a lease, or I have an offer to sell my gas rights at $8,000 per acre. Well, my first question is, well, let's wait and see if they end up paying you, if they approve everything. And then if they approve everything, think about it. Are they approving everything and paying you $8,000 an acre if they think your property isn't worth $8,000 per acre? And who do you think you're dealing with? Do you think you're dealing with somebody who's never looked at these issues before? You're dealing with somebody that has no good information as to what to expect and what the values of these properties are going to be? There are going to be some people who are very rich who are going to get even richer as a result of these agreements. So when you look at, think about it. I'm getting all of these letters in my mailboxes and offers to sell my gas rights. Why are you getting all of those letters? Why are you getting all of those offers? Why are those numbers in some cases high? Because they're worth so much money. Because there is such an opportunity for wealthy people to get more wealthy. And again, that's fine. That's America. That's the way it works. But also in America, we got two sides. We need to make sure that we're taking care of your side. So please, if you're given an offer and you're thinking about it, if it's me, you can call me anytime, 570-307-0702, or call somebody. But just don't sign these agreements. And if you want to do it, you have to get an attorney that understands this to get this changed so you're on an equal playing field. You can't sign these agreements. They're so one-sided. You can't sign them. You need to preserve your rights. I've represented people who have sold their gas rights. I can do it. I'll do it, but I'll only do it after we go through this whole process and you know what you're doing and what the potential pitfalls are. I don't like doing it. I will do it because I want to make sure that if you're going to do it, it's going to be the best possible agreement that you can get. And sometimes, it's the right move, but you have to get some assistance. You have to get assistance. Please. Don't just run out and sell your oil and gas rights. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and we'll be back 8 to 9 a.m. next Sunday.